deeply insulting incident occurred at a luxury car showroom when the manager decided to teach a lesson to Keanu Reeves simply because he didn't look worthy. But instead of reacting with anger, Keanu did something no one could have anticipated, turning a forgettable moment into a powerful lesson that changed perspectives around the globe. What made this story go viral and spark a worldwide conversation about respect and humility? Before we dive into this incredible story, let us know where you're tuning in from. Share the name of your city or country in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow, we'll bring you another inspiring story crafted just for you. The morning in Los Angeles was as typical as ever, with the blue sky stretching endlessly, as if inviting something extraordinary to unfold. Keanu Reeves walked through the streets, discreetly clad in a black leather jacket and faded jeans. His calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the admiring glances of those who recognized him. He had always been this way, never letting fame overshadow his true self. With a simple, genuine smile, he waved at a fan, thanked another for a kind word, and continued his unhurried pace. Along the way, he stopped by a cafe he'd frequented for years. Keanu stepped inside, nodding to the barista. "Good morning, Oliver. How's it going?" "All good, Keanu. The usual?" "The usual, please." While waiting for his coffee, his thoughts wandered. He'd been searching for something over the past few months. It wasn't just a fleeting desire, but an idea rooted in passion. A combination of his love for cars and his wish to do something meaningful. Perhaps a vintage car, something he could restore and use for charity or turn into a special gift. Coffee in hand, Keanu resumed his journey. His destination was a renowned dealership, famous for its exclusive and luxurious cars. He hoped it would be the place where he'd find what he was looking for. As he walked through the glass doors of the dealership, he was met with an atmosphere radiating wealth. The polished floors reflected the immaculate paint jobs of the cars on display. Footsteps were muffled by plush carpeting, and the air carried a faint scent of new leather. Well-dressed staff moved about the showroom, catering to customers adorned in expensive attire and sophisticated accessories. In his casual outfit, Keanu went mostly unnoticed, almost. A few curious glances followed him, accompanied by hushed whispers. Ignoring the murmurs, he focused on what truly mattered. His eyes landed on a car tucked in the far corner of the showroom, a rare model that seemed to belong to another era. Every detail of it captivated him. Its elegant curves, flawless finish, and unmistakable uniqueness that he'd been searching for. With quiet determination, Keanu approached a salesperson who was engrossed in their phone. "Excuse me, could you tell me more about this car?" His voice was calm and polite. The salesperson glanced up briefly, their eyes devoid of enthusiasm. "Hold on, I'll get someone," they said, turning away without a second glance. Keanu Reeves kept his expression calm as the salesperson walked off, but his brows furrowed slightly, a subtle gesture that hinted at growing discomfort. Still, he stayed rooted in place, his focus unwavering on the details of the car that had completely captivated him. The atmosphere around him began to shift, heavy with unspoken judgment. It wasn't from overt actions, but from the whispered remarks and sidelong glances of the staff. "Does he even know where he is?" someone murmured. "Doubt he's planning to buy anything here," another replied. Keanu heard it all but pretended not to notice. He raised a hand to stroke his chin, a small gesture masking his unease. He wasn't ready to react. Not yet. Standing next to the car, he continued to examine its features, appreciating every detail that spoke to its rarity and craftsmanship. Just then, he sensed someone approaching. It was the manager, a man with a stiff posture and a scrutinizing gaze. The tension thickened with each of his steps, as if he carried judgment in the soles of his polished shoes. The manager stopped in front of Keanu, his eyes scanning the car and then the man admiring it. A faint, almost mocking smile played at the corners of his lips. "This is a very special model, quite rare," he said, his tone more probing than informative. "It is," Keanu replied, his voice steady yet courteous. "It's exactly what I'm looking for." The manager's eyes swept over him again. From head to toe, betraying skepticism laced with disdain. "I hope you're prepared," he said, crossing his arms. "This car isn't for just anyone." Keanu met his gaze, his expression soft but unyielding. A faint smile, so subtle it was almost imperceptible, graced his face, but his eyes remained steady, unshaken. The manager took a small step back, folding his arms tighter, as if reevaluating the man before him. What he didn't realize, though, was that Keanu wasn't just any customer. He was one of the most admired actors in the world, not just for his talent but for his integrity and humility. When the truth about him came to light, the repercussions would be far more than surprising. They would be unforgettable. Keanu stood beside the rare car, carefully studying its every detail. The sleek finish, the flawless paintwork, and the classic design stirred a genuine admiration within him. This was precisely what he had been searching for. The atmosphere, already tense, seemed to grow heavier with every passing second. The stares and hushed murmurs from staff and customers alike cast an almost palpable cloud of discomfort over the room. A few minutes later, the manager finally arrived. Henry, a man with a stiff posture and sharp gaze, approached Keanu with deliberate, measured steps, as if each movement was calculated to assert authority. He stopped a few paces away, arms folded, his expression a blend of smugness and challenge. "Interested in this car?" he asked, his tone hovering on the edge of mockery. "Yes, it's an impressive vehicle. I'd like to know more about it," Keanu replied, his voice steady, his demeanor unshaken. Henry's eyes scanned Keanu from head to toe, lingering on the faded jeans and the well-worn leather jacket. His eyebrows lifted slightly, a silent commentary on Keanu's appearance. "Interesting," Henry murmured, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is one of the rarest models we have. Few people even get the chance to see it, let alone own it." Keanu maintained his calm, but the tension in the room had become almost palpable. Henry shifted slightly, taking a small step to the side, as if to subtly block Keanu from getting closer to the car. "Do you know," Henry continued, his tone sharpening, "that this car costs more than most homes in Beverly Hills? This isn't something just anyone can take home." Keanu's brow furrowed slightly, but his voice remained courteous. "I'm well aware. That's why I'm here. I'm genuinely interested. Could you provide me with more details about the car?" he asked, his patience unwavering despite the manager's increasingly hostile tone. Henry let out a derisive chuckle, a sound filled with scorn rather than amusement. Folding his arms tighter, he leaned in slightly, his smirk deepening. "Look," he said, his voice dripping with patronizing disdain, "I don't know how else to put this, but cars like this tend to attract a certain kind of buyer, someone who truly understands the value of what they're purchasing. With all due respect, you don't exactly fit the profile." Keanu drew in a slow, steady breath, his irritation now simmering just beneath the surface, threatening to spill over into anger. He tilted his head slightly, as if to confirm he had heard correctly. "Fit the profile?" he repeated, his tone neutral, but his gaze steady and unyielding. "Yes, the profile," Henry said, doubling down. "These cars aren't just vehicles. They're symbols of status, success, exclusivity, all things that, well, no offense, don't really align with this." With a dramatic flourish, Henry gestured toward Keanu's outfit, his expression leaving no doubt about his disdain. The silence that followed felt heavier than words. A few employees paused their tasks to watch, while others pretended not to notice, their glances betraying their curiosity. Keanu didn't respond right away. He stared at Henry for a long moment, as though carefully weighing each word. "It's curious," he said finally, his voice calm yet firmer now, "that you believe you can understand a person based solely on how they're dressed. That says more about you than it does about me." Henry narrowed his eyes, clearly irritated by the response. He stepped closer, encroaching on Keanu's personal space, his tone dropping but remaining laced with venom. "Listen, buddy," he said, his voice low but sharp, "I see guys like you all the time. They come in here, ogle the cars, dream a little, and leave without spending a dime. If you're here to play pretend, I suggest you stop wasting my time, or my team's, for that matter." Keanu didn't flinch, but his stance shifted subtly. It was no longer just patience, it was quiet resolve. "And what if I'm not here to dream?" he asked, his tone measured and unassuming. Henry let out a short, dismissive laugh, shaking his head as if the question were absurd. "Then I'd say you've walked into the wrong place. This showroom is for people who can afford to be here, people who have something to prove. And frankly," he added with a sneer, "you don't seem to have either." The room grew even more stifling, as though the tension itself were pressing down on everyone present. Keanu held Henry's gaze for a few more seconds. The frustration in him had evolved into something deeper, almost a restrained indignation. He let out a small, knowing smile, not one of amusement, but the kind worn by someone who has seen through the other person completely. "That's funny," Keanu said, his voice calm but cutting. "I always thought true luxury was treating others with respect. Maybe you should think about that." He stood firm, his presence now carrying an unshakable authority that made Henry's smugness appear almost fragile. The manager's anger and contempt were evident in every word, his demeanor now teetering on desperation to assert control. The tension in the room was almost tangible, as employees and customers discreetly observed the confrontation, unable to hide their fascination. Henry's tone turned sharper, his words more cutting, as though winning this argument was the only way he could salvage his authority. "People like you only come here to waste everyone's time," Henry said, his voice laced with sarcasm. "This isn't a place for wandering around, and it's certainly not for dreamers in worn-out jackets and empty pockets." Keanu tilted his head slightly, studying the man in front of him with a calm yet piercing gaze. He took a deep breath before responding, carefully choosing his words. "It's ironic that you talk about wasting time," he said, his tone steady but resolute, "when you're so busy judging people by what they wear rather than who they really are. Maybe you should think about what truly matters." Henry's eyes narrowed, his face flushing a deep red with anger. He stepped closer, invading Keanu's personal space. "Oh, I know exactly what matters," he growled, his voice venomous. "And it's definitely not lectures from someone who thinks they can just walk in here like they belong. You have no idea who you're dealing with." Keanu remained unfazed. He stood firm, his gaze unwavering, a quiet confidence emanating from him that only fueled Henry's growing rage. Frustrated by his inability to intimidate, Henry finally snapped, losing all semblance of control. "You don't get to tell me what to do," Henry shouted, raising a clenched fist in a sudden outburst, as though to threaten, or perhaps even strike, Keanu. But Keanu reacted swiftly, his movements calm yet decisive. He caught Henry's fist midair with an ease that spoke of discipline and experience. His gesture was firm but restrained, more about control than retaliation. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Henry froze, stunned that his impulsive act of aggression had been stopped so effortlessly. The entire showroom fell silent, every pair of eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. Keanu locked eyes with Henry, his expression calm but imbued with an undeniable authority. There was no trace of anger, only a quiet strength that commanded attention. "The anger you're feeling," Keanu said, his voice steady and deliberate, "has nothing to do with me. Maybe it's time you take a good look at yourself and deal with it, instead of taking it out on others." With the same composed demeanor, Keanu released Henry's hand and stepped back. Henry stumbled slightly, visibly shaken, though he tried to mask his embarrassment by stiffening his posture. Keanu adjusted his jacket with an air of calmness, his actions measured and deliberate. He took a step back, his gaze still fixed on Henry. Then, with one final glance, Keanu turned and walked away, leaving behind a silence that carried more weight than words ever could. Respect doesn't cost a dime, yet for some people, it seems harder to find than any car in this showroom, Keanu said, his voice low but powerful, carrying the weight of undeniable truth. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked toward the door. The room remained silent. The only sound echoing through the polished showroom was the steady rhythm of his footsteps. Employees and customers stood frozen, some holding their breath as if they couldn't quite process what they had just witnessed. Then something caught Keanu's attention. A young man stood in the corner of the showroom, phone in hand, clearly recording not just the final moments but possibly the entire incident. Keanu paused briefly, his eyes meeting the young man's. The man looked nervous but resolute, nodding slightly, a silent gesture of understanding and support. Keanu responded with a faint, almost imperceptible smile before stepping through the glass doors, disappearing into the bright Los Angeles sunlight. Inside the showroom, Henry struggled to regain his composure, but the silence that hung in the air, combined with the accusatory stares of the staff, made it clear that the balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The video recorded by the young man wouldn't remain in the shadows for long, and when the world saw what had transpired in that showroom, the repercussions would be both seismic and inescapable. By the next morning, the story had spread like wildfire. The video, uploaded to social media by the young man who had quietly captured everything, went viral in a matter of hours. Shared by thousands outraged by how Keanu Reeves was treated, the clip struck a nerve with people everywhere. The video began with Henry dismissing Keanu and making disrespectful remarks, but the undeniable turning point came when the manager attempted to lash out physically, only for Keanu to stop him with unmatched composure. Keanu's poignant statement, "Respect doesn't cost a dime, yet it seems harder to find than any car in this showroom," became the rallying cry of the internet. It appeared in tweets, memes, and even news headlines. Online, the outcry was relentless. How can anyone treat Keanu Reeves like that? He's genuinely one of the most humble and kind people in Hollywood. That manager thought he was untouchable. What a disgrace to the dealership. Keanu, as always, handles arrogance with grace. A true legend. This is the lesson. Never underestimate anyone based on their appearance. Entertainment blogs and news outlets quickly seized the story. It wasn't just about the disrespect shown to a customer. It was about one of the world's most revered actors being subjected to prejudice. The publicized incident not only defended Keanu but also shone a spotlight on the pervasive issues of discrimination and false elitism in luxury spaces like that showroom. At the dealership, the fallout was immediate and severe. The company's social media pages were inundated with negative comments, demanding explanations and apologies. Criticism poured in from around the globe with calls for boycotts and the outright dismissal of the manager, Henry. Henry attempted to justify his actions, but every word only made things worse. This situation was simply a misunderstanding. I didn't recognize it was Keanu Reeves, and my behavior has been misinterpreted, he claimed. But the public wasn't buying it. The collective outrage was unstoppable. Employees at the showroom, fearing for their own reputations and jobs, began speaking out. One employee secretly shared details with the press, confirming that Henry's behavior was far from an isolated incident. He's always treated people like this. It doesn't matter if they're wealthy or not. He always acts like he's above everyone, one staff member revealed. This revelation only fueled the public's anger. The dealership lost major clients, and sales plummeted. Nobody wanted to be associated with a business tarnished by such a scandal. As the world buzzed with the fallout, Keanu remained silent. He was never one to seek revenge or escalate conflict. At home, in the simplicity that defined his life, he reflected on what had happened. He knew that incidents like this weren't uncommon. Discrimination based on appearance, social status, or financial standing was far too prevalent. He didn't want this experience to be dismissed as just another viral controversy. Speaking with a close friend, he shared his thoughts. "The video has gone viral and people are reacting, but I don't want it to end as just another scandal. I want to do something that truly inspires change," he said. "So what do you have in mind?" his friend asked. Keanu paused, then answered, "Handle it my way," Keanu replied, a faint but resolute smile crossing his face. He knew he had to return to that showroom, not for revenge, but to turn the incident into a meaningful lesson. After ending the call, his thoughts drifted back to the car. He still wanted it. In his mind, it had become a symbol of what this story could become, a turning point. "I need to go back," he thought. The question that lingered was, what would he do when he returned? A few days later, the video continued to dominate social media and headlines. Keanu Reeves was still a trending topic, though he, as always, stayed out of the spotlight, refraining from making any public statements. Yet, he knew the story couldn't end without something more. A resolution that carried weight and meaning. That afternoon, Keanu returned to the showroom. There was no fanfare surrounding his visit. No security, no cameras trailing behind. Just him with his quiet presence. But this time, everything was different. Everyone in the showroom knew exactly who he was. Staff froze the moment he walked through the door. Some looked nervous, others embarrassed. Henry, the manager, stood behind the counter, visibly tense. His complexion was pale, and the confidence he displayed during their first encounter had evaporated into uncertainty. The showroom, once bustling, was eerily quiet, a stark reflection of the public backlash and boycotts it was facing. Keanu walked up to the car he had admired before. He placed a hand gently on its surface, his fingers gliding over the sleek exterior as he had done previously, examining its fine details with care. But this time, the tension wasn't about the car. It was in the room. He could feel Henry's eyes on him, filled with fear and barely concealed regret. Finally, Henry mustered the courage to approach him. His demeanor was a far cry from what it had been days ago. He now appeared smaller, almost defeated. "Mr. Reeves," Henry began, his voice low and measured. "I want to apologize for what happened. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I hope we can start fresh. Perhaps I can show you the car you were interested in?" Keanu slowly turned to face Henry, his calm gaze locking onto the manager's. Henry swallowed hard, unable to hold Keanu's stare for long. "Start fresh?" Keanu repeated, his voice calm yet cutting. "I'm not sure you understand, but the issue here isn't just how you treated me. It's how you treat people, anyone." Henry opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Keanu stepped back, his unwavering gaze fixed on the manager. "Respect isn't something to be bargained for, nor is it something you give only to those you deem worthy," Keanu said, his voice carrying across the weighty silence in the room. "It's fundamental, you either have it or you don't." Henry tried to interject, but Keanu raised a hand slightly, signaling him to listen. "I came here looking for something special, something meaningful to me. But what I found instead was something that can't be fixed with an apology. That's why I won't be buying this car, at least not from this dealership." The gravity of his words made Henry seem to shrink further. Employees and customers stood in stunned silence, their attention fully captured by every word Keanu spoke. Keanu turned toward the exit, but before leaving, he glanced back at Henry one last time. "I hope this serves as a lesson, not just for you but for everyone here. True luxury isn't an exclusive car or an exorbitant price tag. True luxury is treating others with respect. And unfortunately, that seems rarer than any car in this showroom." With that, Keanu walked out of the dealership, leaving behind a silence heavier than words. In the days that followed, the video continued to spread across the internet. But now, people weren't just discussing what happened at the dealership. They were reflecting on how Keanu had turned a moment of disrespect into a profound lesson. Once again, he became a symbol of humility and inner strength. Eventually, Keanu bought the car from a smaller dealership, one known for valuing human connection over flashy displays of wealth. The owner, a middle-aged man named David, had a reputation for treating every customer fairly, no matter who they were. When Keanu stepped into the dealership, he was greeted with a warm, genuine smile. "Welcome. How can I help you today?" David asked. "I'm looking for something special, a car that represents something bigger than itself. I think you might be able to help me," Keanu replied. Their conversation unfolded in an atmosphere of kindness and mutual respect, without judgment or pretense. In the end, Keanu found the car he had been searching for. Before leaving, he took a photo with David and his team, which he later posted on social media. The caption was simple yet powerful. "True luxury is being treated with respect. Thank you for reminding me of that." The post spread like wildfire, once again placing David's dealership in the spotlight as a shining example of how customer service should be. People flocked to the store, drawn by the idea of a place where human Dignity was prioritized above all else. Keanu's simple yet profound gesture ignited a global movement. People began sharing personal stories of prejudice, discrimination, and resilience. Campaigns advocating for respect and inclusion sprang up, urging businesses to reevaluate their values and behaviors. Hashtags like #RespectThisLuxury and #LearnFromKeanu trended across social media. Celebrities, activists, and even major brands joined the movement, using it as an opportunity for reflection. Luxury car manufacturers, wary of reputational damage, began incorporating messages of inclusivity and respect into their marketing. Meanwhile, the dealership where it all began continued to face dire consequences. Henry was fired after widespread criticism and the loss of a significant number of clients. The dealership was forced to restructure, but the damage to its reputation was irreparable. The incident became a cautionary tale within the business world, a stark reminder of the importance of respect. "I never wanted this story to be about me," Keanu shared with his characteristic humility. "This isn't about who I am or what I do. It's about how we treat one another. Respect shouldn't depend on who you are, how much money you have, or what you own. It's a basic right everyone deserves." When asked what he had learned from the experience, Keanu smiled softly before responding. "I've learned that even difficult moments can become opportunities for change. Respect costs nothing, but when we give it, we create something that can change the world." The car Keanu purchased became a symbol of transformation. It was restored and later auctioned at a charity event, raising millions of dollars for organizations promoting equality and inclusion. At the event, Keanu delivered a short but unforgettable speech. "This car was just an object until this story happened. Now, it carries a far greater value, a lesson that we have the power to inspire and create change, as long as we're guided by respect." The evening concluded with thunderous applause, not just for Keanu, but for the message he brought to the world. An incident born from prejudice and disrespect had been transformed into a story of growth and inspiration. Keanu proved that even in the face of injustice, we can act with dignity and turn negativity into a force for good. The world moved forward, but the lesson remained. Even in the simplest moments, it is respect that truly defines us. What would you do if you were in Keanu Reeves' position? Have you ever faced prejudice or had to stand up for what's right? Share your story in the comments. Your voice could inspire others and help spread the message of respect. If you found this story meaningful, share it with friends and family to help spread the lessons of empathy, dignity, and how we can create positive change. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Together, let's take small but significant steps toward building a world where everyone is treated with fairness and respect. Wishing you health, happiness, and success.